Hi students, thanks for tuning in today. This is a quick tutorial on how to set up a LinkedIn profile, and then I'm going to show you my profile and another resource that will better explain the do's and don'ts of using LinkedIn as a public health professional. So first things first, you can use the LinkedIn website or Google to figure out how to sign up and join LinkedIn. You'll just navigate to the sign up page. You're going to type your first, last name, and email address. So, something to consider as you set up your profile for the first time is if you want to use your student college account or if you have a personal email address that you would rather use. The only recommendation I have about using a personal email is to make sure it's a professional email. For example, when I graduated college, I made sure to set up a new Gmail account that was professional because I knew that was the email account that I was going to be applying to jobs with and trying to connect with employers on. So I wanted to make sure it was mature, professional, and clear who I was. So my personal email is my last name and my credentials, basically. If you use your school email, I do believe you are entitled to different LinkedIn Learning access here at the college, so that's a benefit. And when you graduate, you can always change the email associated with LinkedIn, so no worries if you decide to change that in the future. Um, Once you decide which email address you're going to use, you'll enter a password and then you'll join. It may have you verify your email address, so you have to log into your email and do that. So there are a couple of additional steps there to make sure your account is curated and created for you. Once you've created your profile, it'll probably be a little bit blank, but this is what LinkedIn profiles look like. I want to make sure. Yep, here's home. Here's my LinkedIn. So this is the screen I see when I logged in. It gives me a news feed, so it's very similar to the other social media platforms you might be accustomed to, like Facebook. So I see my information over here in the top left-hand corner. That's my name. That's the title that I've given myself on LinkedIn. And I can see my professional profile picture, my headshot, and I had also created a banner image. So you can use something like Canva to create a professional banner image. Mine is just my name and credentials again. I know some folks will do just a very plain picture, maybe that's industry related or the logo of the place that they work. There are all sorts of things you can put as your banner image if you want, but again, make sure it's professional. You can see some key insights on your profile. So I can see how many people are looking at me, the things I post, how much are they being seen. If you have a business that you run or a business page that you are responsible for, like I am, this is my nonprofit, I can see the activity going on my business page. And then here are some other items. If you saved something you wanted to return back to for later and read, it'll show up here. You can join different groups on LinkedIn. You can sign up to subscribe for newsletters and look at upcoming events. So that's all the left-hand side. This middle part is where you can make your own post. So there's video, photo, and written articles. You can type right in this box. There's emojis you can add. You can upload photos or PDFs. You can create an event for folks, celebrate something like graduating or getting a job, and then other content. So there's all sorts of things. You can make a poll to engage with people, add a document. You can schedule these or you can post them live. So that's kind of similar to Facebook or Twitter. This is a news feed. So the different accounts that you might follow or people you might follow, any updates will show up here in the middle. You can see I have quite a few different documents here. And then if you are into news, there's additional fun things you can check out on the right-hand side. Related to news, there's also some really fun puzzles that LinkedIn sends to folks, and that's on the right-hand side. Now, the top bar, you can search for people or organizations, news articles. You can search for just about anything, right? These are some folks that I've recently looked at. You can look at your network. So if people are trying to connect with you, they'll show up here. You can also see any requests that you have sent that might not have been answered yet. So I've sent a few recently. I'm waiting for people to accept, hopefully, or deny. On your network page, you can also see people that might be recommended for you. So once you enter where you work, right, or where you go to school or your area, Greater Boston, it may generate some folks that are removed from you by a couple of people, a couple degrees of separation that you might be interested in connecting with. You can see how many connections you have, who follows you, how many groups you've joined, and pages that you follow. These are all great ways to get engaged and involved on LinkedIn. The jobs tab is also really helpful. So this tab just shows, again, the more information that you put on your profile, it will show jobs that are potentially a good fit for you. It will curate a list of jobs that have the same skills that your profile highlights, and a couple other lists there. Messages will show up in the next tab, and notifications for your profile is the notifications button. The great thing before we move away from this page is you can set preferences for your jobs that are picked for you. So if you click on preferences, you can kind of put in a couple pieces of information, like a minimum salary. Maybe you want to set that to 60, 70, 80, 90. You can look at settings that would show you're open to remote work or in-person work, things like that. When you want to see what your profile looks like, you would click on your profile picture with the drop-down menu that says Me. This is where you'd manage anything about your settings, privacy, the language that you set your profile to. You can click View Profile. So now we're going to see what my profile looks like to someone who's checking out my profile, someone who's not me. So again, I mentioned my headshot, my banner pictures here, my name, my title, my area. You can add your contact information. You can edit that, like I said. You can see my profile set to English, and there's a public profile and URL. So they will typically, when you create a LinkedIn account, just generate a bunch of numbers and letters, but you can customize this, and that makes it easier for folks to find you. It might make it also easier to share your profile. So you can edit your custom URL. So I just made mine my name. I do recommend you take a minute to do that for sure. So looking at my profile, I can see the analytics here. Somebody from the outside wouldn't be able to see my profile. It does tell me that this is private. But the public part of my profile starts right here. So I can see the About section. So the About section on your profile should be a short summary of who you are. So I'm a higher ed professional. I'm a public health professional. I have this much experience. These are the areas that I focus on. In my current work, I do this. And then anything else that you might have going on. So it's a couple of paragraphs that summarizes your whole profile. The next section is a featured section of your profile. So when you make a post, you can choose to pin it at the top of your profile. I think that's similar to what Instagram lets you do. You can pin your favorite stuff to the top. So I like to have a few things pinned that show just a variety of experiences in my professional life. So I've got something pinned from my nonprofit, something pinned in my educational journey, and something pinned from my job. If you keep scrolling down, you can see all of the activity that you have, and you can create a new post. So these are all of my recent posts about National Public Health Week, student media opportunities, professional development day, some things from my nonprofit. So you can see all the different posts that somebody might make. And again, you can pin from any of those by clicking on the three dots and you can feature it to the top of your profile if you want. If you keep going down, here's where the resume part of your profile shows up. So you have your experiences, jobs, volunteer positions, internships, anything like that might go under experience. And you can do that by hitting the plus button and adding a position. You can also hit the pen item if you already have some things in there, and you can reorder things. If you click that button, it lets you change the order. So this is just an example of a couple of positions that I've held I put on my experience list. After experiences, there's another section for education. So you should put your college in here. It will let you select the dates you are active and what degree you're pursuing. And what's great is it will link to the college that you select. Most of them are in here and have professional pages. So that's really a great way that your profile starts to connect you to a community, which we'll get into soon. The next section is for licenses and certifications. So here's a great place to emphasize any additional learning that you do. So for example, at NACC, some of our classes, students are able to get certificates in QPR or HIV prevention training. So you can add licenses and certifications here by clicking the plus button. You'll put in the organization that issued it. What is the certification called? When did you get it? Does it expire? And any, if there's an actual ID associated with that credential, or you can add a picture of it, right? So I like to upload the certificate itself. You can add associated skills, and they will also appear in your skills section. After licenses and certifications, you can add volunteering. Same idea, you add a new experience. You can edit the order by dragging and dropping them, clicking on the pen. And then down here is skills. So for example, I added a certification for QPR, suicide prevention. And in that, we learned about referrals and peer support. When you go to my skills section now, those skills automatically pull in my skills section. You can add languages to your profile if you understand or speak languages. And then down here is interests. So again, this helps you connect to the bigger community. So things that you're interested in, companies, groups, newsletters, or schools. So we're going to click on this page. You can follow companies. So I like to follow different higher ed institutions. I love to keep up with different schools of public health to see what they're doing. You can also join groups. So I've joined Women in Public Health or Public Health Professionals, my college alumni groups. You can subscribe to newsletters and you can follow schools. So this is a great page as well to help you plug in with new connections. All right, that is the basics of LinkedIn in terms of creating your profile and then putting your information in. So what you would do is you would take your resume and you would upload a lot of the information you already have from your resume, if you have one, into this profile to make it engaging and help it connect you to positions, people, organizations that you might be interested in following. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper now into how to use this to your advantage. So part one is over. All right. Part two, here we go. So public health is a unique field in that it is nonlinear, it is broad, it is vague, it has so many different opportunities in there. It can be really difficult to navigate through. So LinkedIn for public health is an incredible tool. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to get comfortable on LinkedIn to build your digital identity. So instead of just having a static resume, you're going to have an active profile where you have a really healthy network of people looking out for you. So there are multiple phases to this. So you obviously need to start with phase one. You need to build your profile and you want it to be engaging. So you don't want to just say you're a student in your headline. You should say what you're becoming, maybe what your goal is. Are you a student of public health, right? Make it more specific. Or maybe you are an aspiring epidemiologist. What have you explored so far? You might not know, that's okay. I just would encourage you to go beyond student. At the very least, student of public health or student of community health worker, something like that. You want to make sure your narrative section about you is engaging instead of just listing bullet points like Lawrence area, community health worker certificate, associates in public health. Make that unique. Tell your story a little bit. This is where you're able to flex some of your skills and the uniqueness that makes you a unique public health professional, what makes you interesting and different than other folks that are also in this field. Again, the featured section is a great place to highlight projects you might have done in class. So, for example, in one of my classes, students make a deliverable, like a community health resource. That would be something you could share here. You could share a presentation that you did in class, research papers. You can prove your skills by having them featured here if you don't have other professional things that you might want to post about. Once your profile is there, then we really move into phase two, which is that strategic networking and engagement piece. So you start connecting with folks, you start following people and leaders and pages and organizations and trying to collaborate. So what you need to really focus on here is how you're presenting yourself. So it's really obvious when a connection is sent and it's a generic connection request that doesn't tell the person who you are. And if they don't know you, they may not want to accept your connection. It's also obvious when someone uses an AI bot to write their message and connect because it doesn't feel authentic. So I have a lot of suggestions about personalizing your connection requests so that the person you're connecting with feels like they want to connect back with you. And we'll dive a little bit more into that phase two piece now. The other reason it's so important to invest in your LinkedIn profile here is because, like I said, public health is a very ambiguous field. So, other standardized fields like nursing, accounting, those fields are pretty standardized. The roles that people might apply to have a very standard name. The job boards are more traditional. They're a little bit easier to navigate because the title is the title that it's always been. And the work is very independent. The public health reality, on the other hand, as many of us know, is that it's very project-based and interdisciplinary. So you can have public health in all sorts of different settings. Additionally, the world of public health is heavily funded by grants, which come and go, and they're not always advertised. And it's very referral heavy, believe it or not. So it's a lot about who you know. And then a lot of the progress we might make in public health or the connections we might make really depend on partnerships in different organizations. So building your profile to be unique and engaging, and then leveraging networking and engagement to build your community is going to help you navigate this field. Okay. The digital ecosystem of public health. So this is a mini field guide to building your network, discovering hidden opportunities, and navigating your career landscape. Public health is a systems and people field, like I mentioned. The reality of the work is that roles are not standardized. The job titles are different depending on where you work, and it can be really challenging to zoom in then on a particular type of job you like because it might be called something different in one field versus another, even though it's still public health. The work is grant funded, project based, highly interdisciplinary. The currency of the field is that a lot of success in this field really depends on trust and the communications that you have with others and sharing a mission with them. So the bottom line is that networking isn't an extra nice to do activity. It is the fundamental mechanism of how public health work gets funded, staffed, and gets done. Careers are really formed through relationships and not always just found. This is the hidden job market. So here at the top of the iceberg, you can see that we have traditional job boards. You'll find standardized roles, publicly advertised postings, applications that are going to be highly competitive. So yes, there are public health jobs that exist in those traditional job boards. You could go to Indeed or LinkedIn right now and type in community health worker, and there will be jobs that come up. But what if you want to do something else in public health? Do you just type in public health? Some things might come up, but there's going to be a whole lot that doesn't come up, even though we know those positions exist. So, underneath the surface of the water here, you see the hidden public health market, public health job market. So, we have hires that end up getting made because of cross-agency collaboration, right? So NECC might talk to the Massachusetts Health Officers Association, and we might be able to recommend somebody directly for a new opening that we heard about in a meeting. There are opportunities that become unlocked through referrals and professional visibility. So on LinkedIn, you might have connections and they might remember talking to you recently and send you a job link, right, in messages. Hey, I saw this and thought of you. Awesome. That might not have popped up on your feed just because your profiles are set up a little bit differently, but it might have popped up for somebody else. Unadvertised grant funded projects. So a lot of times, organizations might learn about grant opportunities. They don't necessarily advertise for those things. They just look internally or they consider how they might fill them easily and quickly. So those end up being a lot of times word of mouth. And then new roles might even be created for a specific person if there's funding. So these public health opportunities are shaped not just by what you know and the degree that you have, but also by who you know and what you're exposed to within your network. So if you're not visible, you don't exist in that ecosystem underneath the surface. So how can we transition to an ecosystem mindset? Well, if we're considering the purpose of our resume, we know it's just a piece of paper and it's a list of past facts or degrees. An ecosystem mindset, you're going to take that list and you're going to create a dynamic story about your identity, right? And you're able to add examples and pictures and hashtags and emojis, and you can make it more engaging. Opportunities. The resume mindset, you are waiting to see a post about an opening on a job board. Like I said, there's a lot more under the surface. So you got to tap into the hidden grant funded partnership ecosystem mindset, all those things that exist under the surface of the water. When we think about networking, the resume mindset is very transactional. Here's my resume. Is there a job I can have? Not the best way to go about it. It feels very cold. The ecosystem mindset, you want to be much more relational in how you approach that. You want to have a shared mission, a shared purpose. You can work together towards achieving it. And then the platform use. Your resume, you might update it once a year, twice a year. When you get a new job, you set it and forget it. And the ecosystem mindset is much more active. It's a content engine. You're learning, sharing, tracking trends, and engaging all the time. We talked a little bit about your profile. So here's how you can deconstruct a high impact LinkedIn profile. So your professional photo, you want to make sure it's professional. It's authentically you, but it doesn't have a lot of personal information in it. You want to make sure you are wearing professional clothing. You want to make sure the lighting is good. I would probably avoid a selfie, or a picture of you and your pets, perhaps. Those are much more appropriate for social media, but not necessarily for LinkedIn if we're looking to generate a network and a professional identity that leads to career. Your headline, again, you want to make it more specific than student. What are you becoming or what are you studying? The About Me section, remember, not a bulleted list. We want to make this a narrative story of your identity. Experience in education, this is where you're going to pull a ton from your resume. You do want the dates and the information about where you worked and your duties and responsibilities and what you were able to achieve. And then a featured section. So you want to start posting. You do want to have a feed on your profile, a digital portfolio. This is your opportunity to brag about your skills, display some projects, presentations, papers, go to a community event, engage, take a picture. This is where you really stand out as a unique person. And then skills and endorsements. So this is proof of the capabilities that you have. Remember, if you add licenses and things like that, those skills get automatically added to this section. All right, the connection spectrum, professionalism and pitfalls. So there are some red flags when it comes to LinkedIn use and how people engage, and then there are green flags. So the red flags would be things like just copy and pasting resumes directly into your profile. You do want to make sure it's formatted nicely. You want to make sure it reads well. Double check your grammar and spelling. You want to avoid generic and uninspired headlines. You want it to feel like you. You want it to feel real and not like something an AI bot wrote. You want to avoid oversharing personal content or unprofessional photos. And you want to avoid being inconsistent between what's on your resume and what's on your LinkedIn. Because if you do apply for a job, and you apply through LinkedIn, for example, you want to make sure that those pieces of information match when you upload your resume. Green flags are maintaining a mindful professional tone and language in your posts and in your messages with people, right? You don't want to shoot a message to someone and say, hey, you want to say hello or dear so-and-so. Connecting organically with classmates and professors is a green flag. So sending those requests and then personalizing the outreach. And I have a template for that. Curating a rich featured section that shows your uniqueness and telling an authentic career narrative in your profile. Those are the green flags. How can you navigate strategic outreach? So how can you build your network, your actual number of connections, and who you connect with? There are a few things you can do. So first, you want to identify your targets. You can look for professors from the college that you've taken classes with or that you've seen on campus. You can even look at professors in classes you haven't taken, but you know maybe that they teach something you're interested in. Classmates, alumni who graduated from the major or program that you're interested in. Those are easy connections to get. And then you can also try to connect with established professionals in your specific area. So if you're interested in public health, you could look for specific public health leaders, maybe in the school you want to transfer to, or at an organization that you know about in the community. You might want to connect with the person who leads that organization. Find common ground. You can look at their profile, figure out what you have in common, identify shared interests or connections that you both share, right? Maybe you have a mutual friend or peer or professor. Personalize your request so you can use some of that information you just collected to personalize the message you send instead of not sending a message when you send a connection request. Avoid the trap of asking for a job. So when you connect, you don't want to say, hey, do you have a job for me? Or I'm hoping to connect with you to find a job. That might still be your end goal, but you don't want to lead with that. It doesn't feel good to the person who's getting your message, and it makes you seem inauthentic, like you don't actually care about connecting or learning about their work or building a relationship. You want to build a relationship. So focus on learning. Frame your connection around learning more about their work, sharing in a mission that they have that you care about as well, or seeking insights into their work or their area of expertise. Maybe you want to learn more about something that they do really well. That feels good to get a message like that. That makes people feel good about what they do and like they can contribute. And then they're probably much more likely to help. Here is a very brief template that you can use and build off of for your outreach messages. So, the anatomy of a successful introduction, you have context, commonality, and a low friction ask, right? Something that doesn't make it feel like this person has to now figure out how to find the time and means to do you a big favor. So, the context establishes who you are. Hello, so and so. Hello, Mr. Blah, 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 or Mrs. Professor. Um, Doctor, public health person. I'm a student at this college. So you're telling them who you are. And then you have your commonality. You're going to identify your shared public health interest or mission and prove that you actually read their profile and know who they are a little bit. So I'm a student at this college interested in this thing that it seems like we both mentioned in our profile. And then your low friction ask. This requests a connection based on learning from them or observing just their feed. It's not transactional. You're not asking for a job. You're not asking them to drop everything and mentor you. You say something like, I would love to connect and learn from your work. Super, it's short, it doesn't take a ton of time, but it does have a much higher impact than not sending a message or sending a transactional message. Once your profile is set up and you have started to build connections and make some posts, you are going to then be able to leverage the platform as a content engine. So once you have those connections in your profile and you follow certain pages or you join certain groups, the platform is going to start working for you. So you can collect intelligence passively. You'll be able to track evolving public health priorities, outbreaks, trends, policy changes, news articles about, any new funding cuts or grants or things like that that might be coming up. You can follow key organizations like CDC, WHO, local health departments, and their information is going to get sent right to your feed. Then you also have active engagement. So you can engage professionally by liking industry content, commenting on news articles, sharing something that you read that you thought was interesting to your own profile, and adding a short message about what you thought about it. This keeps you visible to your network and it helps the algorithm, right? It helps the algorithm see you and continue to curate your content. And then you can make original contributions, of course, right? So you can post reflections from classes, internship experiences, or questions for the industry at large, right? You can post polls, things like that. You can include some hashtags, and then it will show up if people search those hashtags. This also helps boost your visibility on the platform as an emerging voice, and someone that folks might also want to connect with. Some tactical job readiness and search tools. So I mentioned these briefly before. You can calibrate your filters and use advanced search filters to pinpoint parameters for job locations, salary, entry-level status, remote ability when you're looking for jobs. You can set up job alerts by setting some of those filters as well and have emails sent to you to let you know it found 10 jobs this week that might match your profile. It even lets you rate if they were a good fit or not, so it can better suggest things for you in the future. The application strategy, there are easy apply jobs on LinkedIn. There's also jobs that link you to the organization's actual site for applications, so you can kind of play around with that. Organizational reconnaissance, so you can use the platform to research a company and their culture, what they're doing, what the employees are saying about them before you decide that you might want to work there. So there's a lot of insights to be gained by working smarter with the platform. And here is why this is so helpful, and how all of these things, the phase one, phase two, in building your profile and networking, work together. So we have the public health career flywheel. You're going to optimize your profile. So build that digital footprint and establish yourself. You have credibility. You have baseline credibility just based on what you're studying and the fact that you're interested in this field. Then you are going to engage in that strategic networking. So your credibility allows you to engineer connections and build trust with your community, with your network. You're going to engage in content. Your network exposes you to trends, funding, critical insights, and you're going to engage with them, liking, commenting, sharing, posting. You're going to add your own content and become more visible. And that's going to unlock opportunities for you. Industry knowledge and visibility are going to grant you access to the hidden job market underneath the surface, right? The very big bottom part of the iceberg beneath the tip. So your career is a living ecosystem. Learning and connecting are continuous. They're not just confined to the classroom. They're not a static resume piece of paper. You need to engage in this flywheel. And the more you unlock opportunities, you're going to continue to optimize your profile and network with new people in new fields, maybe in a more specific job area that you're interested in, the more you learn. Then you'll have new content, right? This keeps going and going and going. So my hope is that you will build a LinkedIn profile and work on getting your information in there first, and then start building some connections. It's okay if that's as far as you get, but before you graduate, that's what you should be focusing on, getting visible. Let me know if you have any questions.